One of my students, RJ, he's got a band called Fernway, and a few weeks ago they released a new song. So I took a listen and I thought the production and mix sounded awesome, and I especially loved the guitars. They just had this huge, wide, fat, thick tone. It sounded to me like there was some sort of synth layered in there with them. So I started texting RJ, being like, dude, the song sounds awesome. What did you do on these guitars? And eventually I just asked, hey, would you be willing to put together a video walking through exactly how you got this huge guitar tone? So he agreed, and here it is. I got value watching this video, so you definitely want to check this out. There are a lot of key takeaways here. Enjoy.
And now I'm going to talk about how I got these super thick guitars by actually layering in a synth bass and a saw synth that's kind of copying the same thing. So we'll dig into it right here. This is the song To Be Somewhere Else by my band Fernway, and it sounds like this. You'll kind of hear how the guitars and synth are working together. Wanted to take me for a moment, I thought I was younger, innocent, unafraid, and unbothered. Guitars. I can't tell if I'm living right. All to imagine, spiraling by. Okay, so it looks like there's a lot going on here, but it's actually pretty simple. So we're going to start with the guitars. So if we take a look here, this is our chorus. We really only have 3 guitar elements happening. There are 3 guitarists in the band. I play the rhythm guitar. We have a kind of like a lead player and another rhythm player, if you will. So basically, these are the super low chuggy chords. These sound like this. We have some higher pitched, higher voiced chords. They sound like this. Very 90s. And then we have a lead that sounds like this. So you can hear right off the bat that all 3 parts occupy a different range in the frequency spectrum, and that's on purpose. That was intentional. Part of having 3 guitars in a band is figuring out how to fit them into a mix. Part of figuring how to fit them into a mix is, how we approach the songwriting and just the whole mindset aspect of, okay, we don't want to have 3 guitars all competing for the same space, right? So we have a low, a middle, and something higher, right? So digging into this this low-pitched one, this actually blends really nicely with this synth bass. Now, in the band Fernway, we don't actually have a traditional bass player. I track all the bass for the record, and for these particular batch of songs, it's kind of going through a synth bass phase, if you will. So a lot of the thickness is actually coming from the way that this synth bass is working with these guitars right here. So if I'll play you just the synth bass, and you'll notice I have this instrument track up here with Trillion on it. That's where I got the synth bass from. So I found a preset that I liked. I think it was called Quirky Steps, if I'm not mistaken. And yep, Quirky Steps. So I found a preset that I liked, right? So something that had good low end, something consistent, and I wanted something with really heavy, almost blown out mid-range. So I'll play you this dry printed sample of the MIDI bass. Okay, so right off the bat, love the way that sounds. It has good low end. It also has a lot of like mid-range and high-end information, which is going to help it blend in with the guitars. But being that this is a stereo instrument, one thing that I don't want is I don't want too much low-end information on the sides clouding things up. So that's kind of what that was one of my main things that I wanted to kind of solve with this slew of plugins. So we start with Saturn II. And yeah, this is just kind of gently saturating the whole bass as a whole. Just kind of adds a little bit of thickness right off the bat. Adds a little bit more weight right off the bat and kind of makes it just like feel more dense in the actual mix itself. Okay, so this Vitamin plugin is actually doing what I mentioned a little bit earlier. It's taking everything from 90 hertz and below, and it's making it mono. So turning that knob to the left makes it all mono, and just so you can kind of hear what this is affecting, it's all that super low information. So I don't want any of that on the sides of the mix, and I'm just pumping a little bit more low mids and more mid-range into the bass sound too. And I left those as they are in the stereo field, again, because this bass, I'm trying to not only fill out the low end, but I'm trying to glue it with the rhythm guitars that are doing these low chugging chords. So basically, yeah, let's hear what this Vitamin is doing with it off and then back on. So it can feel kind of subtle, but I think it's actually a pretty big difference. It's definitely thickening up the low mids, and it's just making the bass tighter in the middle and just giving it more focus in the low end. Follow this up by my max bass. This is very similar to the R bass trick that Jordan teaches, and I believe this was I believe I didn't have access to R bass for some reason during the mixing of this, so I used the next best thing, which is max bass. And essentially what this is doing, if you don't know, is it's just adding harmonic content that might not have been in the, present in the original source. So it's essentially just adding in upper harmonics that allow the bass to cut through on smaller speakers. One of the hardest things with synth basses is you can get all the low end in the world from them, but it can be hard to have them cut through the guitars. It can be hard to have them be heard on small speakers and across different systems. So saturation and kind of, filling in the blank spaces and making the sound more dense, right? That's kind of how I found helps blend with the guitars and also make it felt and heard across a bunch of different systems. So this is without the max bass, and then I'll flip it on so you can hear what it's doing. So it's like it's almost a little overbearing, which is kind of what I was going for. I really wanted a messy, aggressive, distorted bass sound. This whole kind of project and this song in particular was inspired by a lot of the pop music that's coming out nowadays, where it's just kind of aggressive mixing moves, not being afraid to boost things. I would rather have the low end hit almost too hard than not hard enough. So yeah, that was max bass. And then to cap it off, we have a limiter, just taking the peaks off pretty much completely. And we can hear that's a pretty good blend between those two. There's a lot of low end, super thick, super beefy. That's kind of the whole vibe we were going for. And I like that blend. So if I play it with all the guitars happening in the chorus. Here's without the bass. So we can hear that that's really pulling a lot of weight as far as the thickness goes. It's adding some thickness on the sides, kind of acting as a lower synth. The next thing that I kind of did to help these guitars just feel a little bit more full, again, a little more dense, is this is a trick that I kind of do from time to time. But I like to layer in some kind of saw pad that is following the guitar chords as directly as possible. In this instance, I used a little bit more open voicings just to kind of get even more of the frequencies present, more of the frequency spectrum present in the sound. So this is what the synth pad is doing right here. I'll show you what it is. And with the guitars. So we can hear that is just adding so much high-end information on the sides. It's adding a lot of high-mid information and even mid-range. It's just when I mute that saw synth kind of sound, we lose so much information on the left and right, which in this context, it sounds kind of loud when it's just soloed. But if we listen in the context of the mix, right, check this out. It's just adding another element to the guitar sound that isn't already present. And that's kind of the whole mindset of this, is to not be afraid to layer sounds, not be afraid to try things. This is something that I'm always looking to do is how can I thicken up my guitar sounds by, adding artificial elements into them. And this was how I did it with this synth sound. I also added in this wind chime sound. I think this might be the stock Pro Tools wind chimes. But basically, this is covering a lot of the high-end sparkle. If you want to take a listen to what this sounds like. And together with the guitars. And just to show you how much weight that stuff is pulling, if I mute the bass, the guitars, and the synths, this is what we've got. For a moment I thought I was younger, innocent, unafraid, and unbothered. Nowadays I feel like an imposter. I can't tell if I'm living right. Striking gold, difficult to imagine. Spiraling by yourself on a mattress. Watch the sun paint your face in the canyon. Let the drugs in my brain. So as you can hear, it's not a ton of layers. It's it's a handful of really well thought out and really intentional layers, and every layer is building upon the next one, and that goes back to the fundamental aspects of what Jordan is teaching in the Pro Production system, is just like approaching things with the mindset of getting it right at the source, tight tracking, right? Nothing out of tune, nothing out of time. It really comes down to just absolutely making sure that you're not layering things for the sake of layering things. You're layering things with the mindset of, okay, I'm putting this here because this is going to serve this purpose. And, it's just one of those things where it could take a while to employ that mindset, but that might be the biggest step towards becoming consistent and really hitting your mix goals every single time. Is just like having a no sacrifice, no days off kind of attitude of, I'm going to reach the gold standard every time, no matter what I have to do to get there.
Big thanks to RJ. Check out his band on Spotify. And I've got a free gift for you for watching this video. It's a free mixing cheat sheet. And this is just a one-pager that has all of my go-to starting points for EQ and compression for every track in your mix. So that's for free. It's at mixcheatsheet.com, or there's a link down below. And RJ has got a pretty cool story, going from a Guitar Center employee, recording bands on the side, charging $50 a song, to becoming a professional in the studio, quitting his day job, and now working with awesome bands, charging 20 times that. So if you want to hear more about RJ's story, check out this video here.